Good evening. I'm Alyssa Taylor Stewart, and on behalf of the Office of Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships, I'd like to welcome you to Parent University. Our goal in Parent University is to engage with our Long Beach Unified School District parents, caregivers, and families, providing them with valuable information, tools, and resources to support our students. Tonight, my colleagues and I are excited to welcome back Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama, Director of Student Support Services, and Mr. Brandon Messina, the lead for the LGBTQIA initiative. Together, they will share important information that will give us greater understanding of ways to positively support students in the LGBTQIA community. I encourage you to engage with our presenters by sharing your questions and comments in the Google form, which is accessible in the link in the YouTube frame. We will do our best to answer all of your questions tonight, but if we don't, someone will reach out to you directly during this week. So please make sure to share your contact information when submitting your questions. All right, thank you again for being here, and please let's welcome Mr. Brandon Messina.
Good evening to all of our LBUSD families, allies, and supports. Good evening to you. We are from the Division of Student Support Services, and the presentation is entitled The LGBTQ+ Inclusive Language. We're going to talk a little bit about inclusive language and the use of pronouns and why language is so important. We thank you so much for engaging with us and inviting us out here for session 2. We hope that you find this information meaningful and that you engage with it. As mentioned before, my name is Brandon Messina. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. Currently, I'm the LGBTQ support service lead for our school district, and I'm also an intervention teacher on special assignment. I work very closely in this office to develop supports and also interventions for students and staff throughout the district. I'm also accompanied by our wonderful director, Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm Claudia Sosa Valderrama, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Director of Student Support Services. And I have been in the district for 7 years. And our Office of Student Support Services actually includes a lot of support services, including support services that we provide to our LGBTQ+ students. Additionally, we work with attendance and discipline and school placements, records, our social emotional learning, work with our school psychological services, foster youth, our Bethune Homeless Education Program, and our high school wellness centers, just to name a few of the services that we provide. So we're very happy to be back with you this evening to provide some more information about ways that you can support LGBTQ students at home and how we can support them at schools. If you have any questions, please submit those through the Google form, as Ms. Taylor mentioned, through the YouTube frame, and we will try to respond to as many as we can as time permits today. And if we don't get to any questions, we will be sure to respond to you at a later time. So without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Messina, who will take us through our second part of this very important session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama. So right now, we would like to engage you in a language disclaimer. We would like you to please keep in mind and consider that during this presentation, there may be language or themes discussed that may be difficult for some. We want you to know that in the Office of Student Support Services and School Support Services, we are here to support you and to work with you through this process. At this time, we would like to give a special thanks to our stakeholders who makes this work even possible to flourish and support our students throughout the district. So first, we would like to thank Joe Gamino, who is our support through the Center of Long Beach. We would also like to thank Ms. Tanya Moore, who works for the Los Angeles County of Education, who has helped develop both this presentation and to vet resources for best practices. We would also like to thank the California Department of Education for their best practice and research around these topics. We would also like to thank the Parent University team for inviting us out to present this very important information. We would like to thank LBUSD for being a school district that is leading in this support for our LGBTQ plus support students and just leading great work. We also want to thank the Office of School and Student Support Services for their endless support that we provide. And lastly, we want to thank you as parents, guardians, allies, friends, and families, because we know without your support, this would not even be possible. So thank you very much. At this time, we would like to engage you in some community agreements. Now, given the sensitivity of this content, we would like to invite you to share in some of these community agreements. Now, these agreements will help us identify positive ways to create culture and also to talk about these difficult topics. Using these practices and these tools can help us challenge ourselves, and we can recognize that we come from different places and knowing that we are all in the process of transforming. So what we're asking right now is that we listen from the heart. We ask that we listen with respect. We ask that we speak with respect. We ask that you honor confidentiality. And lastly, think inclusivity. At this time, I would like you to internally maybe commit to one of these community agreements that you will commit to engaging with as you're learning in this conversation today. At this time, we would like to just further explain a little bit more about what we do in the Office of School Support Services. One of the things that we are tasked to support with is positive culture and climate, developing positive school cultures and climate. So one of the things that we are tasked with in our office is developing supportive and inclusive school policies, such as our comprehensive anti-bullying, anti-harassment. Our supportive transgender and non-binary student policies are all developed within our offices. In addition, we support with developing gay-straight alliances through the work of Joel Gamino. We are working always on providing professional development for our school staffs around the LGBTQ support needs and supports. And lastly, we urge and always try to increase student access to LGBTQ inclusive resources for students, staff, and families. For our learning objectives today, this evening, we really want the Parent University participants to take away something special. So this evening, the Parent University participants will gain a foundational understanding of LGBTQ plus support pronouns and why the use of inclusive language is important in affirming gender identity and expression. So essentially, you will walk away with a foundational understanding of inclusive language and why language is so important for others to feel included, and then the use of our pronouns. So just to review from our last session, what we learned. In our last session, we really grounded our time in vocabulary and learning some new terms. And I really want to go back and review some of those terms at this time. So a general understanding of the most common definitions associated with sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression are what we call SOGI. It's important in order to effectively provide a safe and supporting learning environments for all students. So in order to provide safe and supporting learning environments for all students, we must have a foundation about sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. In our last session, we also reviewed this diagram that I want to walk through again. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of identities. Please note that there are many more identities. So she may be broken down into 3 different classifications: sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about this term at the bottom of our diagram, queer. Now, queer is a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people may all identify with the word queer. Queer is sometimes used to express the sexuality and gender that can be complicated, change over time, and might not neatly fit into either or identities such as male or female, gay or straight. The word queer has had a history that has been harmful, but in most recent years, the LGBTQ community has reclaimed that word and used it as something positive to identify the many different identities within the LGBT plus community. So why are gender pronouns important? Mistaking or assuming a person's pronouns without asking first mistakes the person's gender and may send a harmful message. Using a person's correct gender pronouns is the most basic way you can show respect for their gender identity. And it is important for them to feel affirmed when you are identifying and addressing students and children by their gender identities and proper pronouns. So to give you a little context and background, what is a pronoun? Now, a pronoun is a word that refers to either the people talking, such as I or you, or someone or something that is being talked about. For example, she, I, them, and this. Gender pronouns such as he, hers, and them specifically refers to people that you were talking about. So grammatically, pronouns function like nouns. They can be used as both subjects and objects. They refer to people, they refer to places, and they refer to things. And they can be singular and plural. What is a gender pronoun? A gender pronoun is a pronoun that a person chooses to use for themselves. Gender pronouns are the pronouns that we use to refer to people in sentences and conversation. For example, she, her, hers, or he, him, his. Now, these pronouns might be he, his, or she, hers, or gender neutral pronouns such as they or them. Knowing and using a person's correct pronoun fosters inclusion and makes a person feel respected, and it also affirms their gender identity. So really, it gives identity and respect to the person. What are some examples of gender pronouns? Now, gender pronouns can look like, but they are not limited to, he, him, his, which historically have been known as masculine pronouns. We can also have such pronouns as she, her, hers, which historically have been perceived as female pronouns. We can also have they, them, and theirs, what we refer to as neutral pronouns. And we also have sie, zer, or zers, also neutral pronouns. And lastly, sie, here, hers, also neutral pronouns. So just take a second and sort of process this. As you can see, the difference in what we historically call masculine pronouns, female pronouns, and neutral pronouns. This diagram also gives you a better example or a deeper example of some subjective, objective, possessive, reflective, and an example. So looking at the first line, we see subjective, she. Objective, her. Possessive, hers. Reflexive, herself. And an example would be, she is speaking. I listened to her. The backpack is hers. Now let's look at more masculine. Subjective, he. Objective, him. Possessive, his. Reflective, himself. Some examples would be, he is speaking. I listened to him. The backpack is his. Using the example of a gender-neutral pronoun, subjective, they. Objective, them. Possessive, theirs. Reflexive, themselves. An example, they are speaking. I listened to them. The backpack is theirs. So as you can see, these gender pronouns are broken down into 4 different categories, and you have an example. Here are some examples of gender pronouns in use. So for example, she, hers, her. If Chris's gender pronouns are she, her, and hers, you could say, Chris ate her food because she was hungry. So you could see her was used as the proper pronoun. The next example, they, them, theirs. Chris ate their food because they were hungry. This is a pretty common gender neutral pronoun. And yes, it can be in fact used in a singular way. You can use this pronoun as a neutral identifier if you are unsure what pronoun someone uses. We will talk a little bit more about that in a further slide. Next, Z and her. Chris ate her food because Z was hungry. Z is pronounced like Z. Can also be spelled Z, such as Z-I-E or X-E, and replaces the he, she, them. Here is also pronounced like here and replaces the here, her, hers, him, his, they, theirs. Please take a minute and engage with this and think about some of these examples. At this time, we would like to invite Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama to explain some of the language in Spanish.
All right, so as you know, some languages are really based in feminine and masculine words. One such language is Spanish. And so it's not just the pronouns that are masculine or feminine, but just nouns in general are either masculine or feminine. And so in order to have some non-binary language, some modifications have been made. So you may have heard the word or the letter X replaced in some words. For example, when people are referring to Latinx communities, right? Formerly, people would have said Latino or Latina communities. So many countries outside of the US haven't yet adopted any kind of gender neutral pronouns or nouns, but that may change. So as you know, as I mentioned, most words are gendered in Spanish. So they either end in an A or an O to determine if it's a feminine or masculine word. And so recently the letter X has been substituted for that A or that O. And so although that's a positive change, for many native Spanish speakers, that's challenging. It's challenging to pronounce the X. And so some words that are, when you're a Spanish speaker, you might not hear the use of the X instead of the A or the O, you might hear more of the E, and in Spanish, it's pronounced E. So here are some examples of using non-binary language in Spanish. So for you, when you are using a singular, you might use ella instead of saying ella or él. Another example is just adding the E or the ES to a word that might have an A or an O. So it could be abuele, esposa, hermane, niñe, novie. So it's just adding the E. Now in that pink graphic there, you will also see some of the words that end with a at sound, the at, right? And that signifies the A and the O together. In Spanish, that's called an arroba. So you wouldn't really use that to speak. Those are used in writing. So in writing, you would use that instead of using the E. So that's another alternative. So in some Spanish-speaking countries, particularly in Latin America, this is being used more, although it is not a standard language quite yet. But it is something that is, being explored as a way to be supportive to the various communities that we are working with and that we are, so that everybody is represented and not left out. So being more inclusive. And so in our schools, that are dual immersion schools, this is one thing that we are introducing also, to make sure that no matter what language we're speaking, we are using inclusive language. So I'll turn it back over to Mr. Messina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sosa. So we ask, why is it important to respect people's gender pronouns? Very simply, asking and correctly using someone's pronouns is one of the basic ways you can show your respect for their gender identity. It is important to use correct pronouns when referring to someone because it honors their gender identity, and it is a sign of mutual respect that you can give to both parties. It's also important to use the correct pronouns for safety of a person involved. Using incorrect pronouns can potentially put a person in an unsafe situation by outing them. Outing is when someone has exposed someone's sexuality without their consent. So really, when you are honoring a person's gender pronouns, you are affirming their identity. When someone is referred to with the wrong pronoun, it can make them feel disrespected, invalidated, dismissed, or even alienated. So essentially, they can feel less than or not even as human as another person because their identity is validated. So it's very important that we honor this. And next, while many people use the wrong pronoun by mistake, sometimes people use the wrong pronoun intentionally to hurt or disrespect transgender people. Repeatedly, being misgendered can be a source of great distress. So there are those times when people do use the wrong pronoun intentionally, and please note that that can be very harmful and cause great distress on the receiving end, in particular, transgendered individuals, because their identities are not being affirmed. So how do you ask about their pronouns? We know that this can be sort of new information for some. So I want to give us some strategies about when these topics come about. So asking people about their gender pronouns has become commonplace in the LGBTQ+ community and safe space communities because it shows a sign of respect. Outside of those communities, asking about someone's gender pronoun is greatly appreciated instead of making assumptions about someone's gender pronouns. So please note, asking someone about their gender pronouns can look like this, but is not limited to simply asking, what gender pronouns should I use to refer to you? Or you can ask, what are your gender pronouns? Or you could ask, I don't want to make any assumptions. So what gender pronouns do you use? Or how should I refer to you in conversations? What we have put together in our school website for resources is also a poster that sort of talks you through the same thing. So if you need to know more information about how to ask for pronouns or more information, you simply can click on this presentation. The link will take you to these posters on our website. So for example, it says, how can I ask for people's pronouns? This is an example. Hi, I'm Nick. I use he, him, his pronouns. What are your names and pronouns? Hi, I'm Nick. He, him, his. Nice to meet you. I use he, him, his pronouns. Would you mind sharing yours? So as you can see, this gives you just an example of a script of how to simply ask for an individual's pronouns. What to do if you make a mistake and call someone the wrong pronoun. Now, people make mistakes, and it can be a bit difficult to adjust to using a person's correct pronoun. If you accidentally misgender someone by calling them the wrong pronoun, it's very important that you simply apologize and move forward and commit to doing better. That way, you can decrease the sense of creating an awkward or an uncomfortable situation. One example of this would be, Chris is going on a tour. They said they were really excited for this year's lineup. So as you can see, apologizing and committing to moving forward is always the best thing, because you do not want to alienate them or make them feel any worse. So again, I will click here and take you to another poster example of what if I mess up someone's pronouns? Now, again, these are on our Student Support Services website. These resources are for staff, they are for parents, and they are for students that will engage around this. So number one, it's best to apologize. Apologize is always the best step, even if it's quick. Just make sure that you apologize. Two, correct yourself, okay? Use the person's pronouns and name correctly. Number three, commit yourself to doing better. Practice using the person's pronouns correctly. Use pronouns correctly in all situations. And lastly, keep growing. Growing can be uncomfortable. And if you feel awkward about using a person's pronoun, or if you're having difficulty catching on, be kind to yourself, because you know that this is sort of new information for a lot of people. And just acknowledge that you will make mistakes. But the important thing is committing to doing better. Again, you can click on to our Student Support Services website, and these posters are there for you to sort of engage with and look closely around, and even read more closely. And if you have questions, reaching out to our offices for clarification. So this is our LGBTQ inclusive language do's and don'ts. So people first language is important because people deserve the respect of being identified as a person first, rather than solely characterized by a perceived limitation. It is important to understand that words have meaning, and choosing the right language is very, very important in affirming a person's identity. So looking at this chart here, some best practice would be to avoid saying words like a gay or a transgender. Say instead, a gay transgender person. Why? Because gay and transgender are adjectives that describe a person or a group. So an example would be, we have a transgender athlete in our league this year. Next example, avoid saying transgender people are normal people. Say instead, transgender people and cisgender people. Why? Saying normal implies abnormal, which can be stigmatizing and a way to refer to a person. An example would be, this group is open to both transgender and cisgender people. Another example, try to avoid saying both genders or opposite sexes. Instead, say all genders. Why? Both implies that there are only two. Opposite reinforces that. An example would be, video games aren't just a boy thing. Kids of all genders play them. Another example is when we're using inclusive language, it's a way of acknowledging and respecting a person's diversity of their bodies, their genders, of their relationships. Inclusive language ensures that we are not leaving anyone out of the conversation. So, as another example of using inclusive language, avoid saying both genders or opposite sexes. Instead, say all genders, right? We said both implies that there are only two. Ladies and gentlemen, avoid saying. Say instead, everyone. Folks, honored guests. Why? Moving away from binary language is more inclusive of people of all genders. An example, good morning, everyone. Next stop is Piccadilly Station. Next example, avoid saying mailmen, firemen, policemen. Say instead, mail clerk, firefighter, police officer. Why? Because people of all genders do these jobs, not just specific to men and women, right? It acknowledges all. And an example would be, I actually saw a firefighter rescue a cat from a tree. And our last example about using inclusive language do's and don'ts, avoid saying it, referring to someone, right? When pronouns are unknown. Say instead, they, right? More neutral. Why? It is the referring to things, not people. An example would be, you know, I'm not sure how they identify. So as you can see, the they makes it more neutral in language and still gives identity of a human person. So again, I really want you to look at this gender inclusive, LGBTQ inclusive language do's and don'ts, and really think about, what can I commit to and why? How can I change my language that I use to ensure that I'm being more inclusive of all LGBTQ people? And we would like to invite Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama to talk a little bit about our policy.
All right, everybody, I'm back. So we do have a transgender and gender nonconforming student policy, and we've had this for almost 10 years. And this was in response to Assembly Bill 1266 that provided some protections on student gender rights. And so this very comprehensive policy is about 18 pages, and it outlines information that schools should know about students' rights. And it also outlines what protections they have and how we notify parents as well as students of these rights and protections. So in the plan is included ways that a student or a parent can request a name change and or a gender change. And so that can happen in an official way through a legal document that is provided by the court, changing gender and or name. It could be done in an unofficial name change request, whereas we can change some of the information that is accept our legal documents, and then it could be informally through an AKA. So all of that is detailed in this policy. It also includes privacy and confidentiality and how we make sure that students' privacy and confidentialities are maintained at all times. And it also provides information on the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. And so if, Brandon, you can take me to our website, I want to walk you through some of those resources and where you can find this form, these requests to change names and genders, and also want to walk you through some of our policies. So if you see right up in the front, we talk about our commitment to upheld the law, right? The education code that supports LGBTQ plus students. And we want to ensure that schools are safe and inclusive learning environments for all our students. So we have our policies and practices that affirm the California Education Code. And we also strive to ensure that all of our staff affirming that and protecting our students to make sure that we're providing safe, affirming, and supportive places for our students. So our responsibility includes to treat students equally, prevent and respond to reports of bullying, harassment, and discrimination regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. We respect students' dress and behavior that does not conform to stereotypes associated with their gender with respect to the student's dress code. We provide our LGBTQ plus inclusive social studies, history, and comprehensive sexual health education. Refer students by the gender pronouns and name that fits their gender identity. Provide access to school activities, spaces such as locker rooms and restrooms that fit with their gender identity. Implement and provide access to gender neutral restrooms, dress code policies, and classroom practices. We provide students with opportunities to speak about LGBTQ plus issues, including wearing LGBTQ plus affirming t-shirts, stickers, and bracelets, and access information about LGBTQ plus issues on school computers, and to bring same gender dates to prom. Support the formation of Gender and Sexualities Alliance, the GSA clubs, or similar LGBTQ plus related student clubs. As well as respect students' individual choice to be out and be themselves at school and seek their permission of and when or whom staff can discuss their LGBTQ plus identity. And we recognize students' consent to sensitive LGBTQ plus or sexual health related services without seeking permission from caregiver parent if they're age 12 or older. So below this, you will see our transgender and gender nonconforming student policy. Below it is the unofficial name change form, which is the student request. And below it is the unofficial name change form, which is a parent request. So either the parent or the student can print out this form and fill it out and give it to the school counselor or the school principal. They will go through some of the information that they should know about their rights and what gets changed with this form and what doesn't, and basically provide a plan for them to transition to their preferred gender identity and making sure that they are safe when they're doing so. And the student really gets to decide who they want to have this information. And it's not up to the principal or up to the teacher or the counselor to tell whoever they think should know. It's the student gets to decide who they want to know. And if the parent, if a teacher doesn't know or if a staff doesn't know, as Mr. Messina was mentioning, then, the expectation is that, we address the student as they. If the student is non-binary, then we use they. And so our job is really to protect the students and make sure that we are supporting their chosen identity. So on this same webpage, on one side, you will see the posters that Mr. Messina was referencing. Those are all there. We also have resources for students, for parents, and for educators that anyone can access at any time. It gives information about ways to support the student, and then just other resources that can be accessed, to make the school more inclusive. So I invite you to explore our webpage and our resources, and feel free to reach out if you have questions about any of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. So parents, families, you are the biggest and first allies, right? And support systems for your students and within our school district. So we want to just impart some knowledge to you of how you can further show support. What you could do is let them know that they are loved. Let all your students know that they are loved and they are valued, right? No matter what. Encourage dialogue. Ask students what's going on. Ask students about their experiences with school, with pronouns, right? With language. Stay involved with the school. Ask questions. Particularly if students have come to you with concerns around their gender pronouns or even bullying in school, please make sure that you're staying involved with what is going on so you can best support. Take a team approach. Ask for support and to work with stakeholders at the school who can be allies and supports for students. Ensure they form healthy relationships with students, other students, with adult allies on campuses, as well as family members to ensure that they are being supported and protected. And then as families, we can also make sure that we're staying on top of social media, because at times social media can be extremely harmful when information is put out there about students that they have not approved, or images and things like that can be very harmful. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of social media and all of those different platforms to making sure that students are appropriate. Continue to ways to show some support. You can honor their identities by using the pronouns. Even if you don't understand, try not to dismiss it as not real. Find other parents who you can talk to. So 2 resources that we have here are for the PFLAG, which stands for Parents and Families of Lesbian and Gays. And then we also have our Lesbian and Gay Center of Long Beach, who does have parenting groups and parenting support classes for parents that need support for their students. Also, keep researching to get your questions answered. Don't place the burden on your kid to teach you. Try to stay up on best practices around LGBTQ+ supports. Identities can shift over time, so don't force them to choose or even for them to stay in a box. Really support them and take them as they come, and support the needs as they come about. And support their events, organization, friends, and interests. Much like the PFLAG organization, getting involved with them shows a great deal of allyship and support, and they're more likely to be open and be free and really ask for the support if they know that it's there. So another thing we can do, check in about friends, teachers, school staff, and advisors. Oftentimes, LGBTQ+ students may not bring up instances of bullying and harassment or issues without being prompted. So please make sure that you're asking questions and you're being hyper vigilant and hyper aware of just interactions that students are having to ensure that they are appropriate and safe. One way that you can show support is check on their mental health. Normalize having conversations about seeking therapy or other types of support if the students are experiencing anxiety or depression or even self-harm. Encourage students to seek the supports of counselors and psychologists through the district to talk to, or even their wellness centers here on campus that are great supports and allies for LGBTQ students and all students. And another way you can show support is have difficult conversations with family members and be an ally for your students, and make sure that you are supporting them by using their names and pronouns. So essentially being present and being an ear there and listening to them is a great way to start showing support for them. And at this time, that really concludes our presentation around using these inclusive language and the use of pronouns in the LGBT community within the LBUSD. This is our information, Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama, and her email address, and my information, as well as the link to our Student Support Services webpage. You can reach out to us at any time if you would like more clarification or some questions answered, or if you would just like to talk about anything personal or pressing. But we thank you so much for your time, and we would like to really open it up to questions now.
Thank you, Brandon and Dr. Claudia Sosa Valderrama. We're grateful for you guys coming back and sharing some more very, very valuable information. I feel like each time you come, you open our eyes and our hearts to being better supports for our students, all students, but especially our students in the LGBTQIA community. I do have a few questions though, so let's get at it. Let's see here. One of our guests wrote, I respect the pronouns of others, but I don't personally use pronouns when introducing myself. Is that seen as disrespectful?
Dr. Sosa, did you want, or do you want me to go?
Sure. It's not necessarily disrespectful, but when you use your pronouns, it kind of shows that you are supportive of people using their pronouns, and it opens it up for them to feel comfortable to do so. So it's something that we really encourage.
Thank you. And thank you for asking that question. It was, it's a brave space because this is new information for many people. So I'm grateful for our parents and caregivers and guardians. Okay, here's another. I am a parent who is struggling with my child who just started asking me to call them by a different gender. Where can we go for counseling services for our family? We want to be supportive, but we also have a lot of questions.
So one of the resources that Mr. Messina mentioned was the Center Long Beach, the LGBTQ Center. And it's actually, if you go to our website, we do have some more information on how to access them. They are local and they provide a lot of support services for families and for students. So they are a great partner to our school district, and they have many resources that they can share with you as far as counseling, support groups, and just information in general. So we really encourage you to access the LB, I'm sorry, not the LBUSD, the LB Center Long Beach.
Thank you. Okay, a couple more. My daughter's friend shared with me that she thinks she is transgender, but her parents don't know. The friend always seems sad and depressed, and my daughter is very worried about her. Is it appropriate for me to share with the mom or reach out to the school so she can get some help?
I think if you share with the mom that you are maybe concerned about her mood or her mental health, I think that's definitely appropriate. But as far as sharing that she shared with you, that she confided that she thinks she might be, transgender, then I think that is something that is very personal, and that the student really has to make the decision of who she wants to know, including her parents. Sometimes it's not safe for students to tell their parents because they might not be in a space, the parents might not be in a space that they understand. So just depend on the situation, but it really should be up to the student on who knows.
That's a tough spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough spot. Thank you.
And I was just going to add just one more thing. It goes back to what I was saying. The parent could also, of the other child, speak up about just the mental illness or the mental supports for that other student. Mm-hmm. And the need, because that also shows support. So if she's noticing that the student is withdrawn or feeling depressed, like Dr. Sosa said, having that conversation with the parent may be a really good angle to get in, but definitely not outing. And that shows another layer of support that you're having for that student.
Thank you. Mental health support is important for any reasons, right? Absolutely. Sometimes it's layered though, make it even a little bit more difficult. Let's see here. If a student changes their name at school, will their parents ever be contacted?
So no, if a student changes their name by filling out that unofficial name change form, the school will not contact the parent. However, that change, if it's an unofficial name change, will be visible in parent view. So that is one of the things that we, let the students know if they are going to be making that filling out that form and making that request to change their name in the system, then that's viewable by teachers, that's viewable by the parent, and that's viewable by the student in student view as well. But there's no phone call home.
Okay, thank you. This is good information. Will students be learning this in school? And also will teachers be learning about this?
So we are currently, we have taken this presentation on the road, and we have actually presented to many audiences, from our counselors to our principals to our school nurses even. And so we're continuing to present this in large forums. And what we're currently working with the Office of Curriculum Supports and Development, to develop a curriculum support so we could work in alignment and begin to then give professional development around these topics to students, but really supporting out of two offices, the offices of curriculum and instruction, and then in our offices of student support services. So Dr. Sosa, do you want to speak more to that?
Sure. Just, when we're working with the people that typically support students, such as the school counselors or the school psychologist, then if a student approaches them, or even our social workers, then they are trained to provide the information to the student. And of course, our website has a host of lots of information and resources for them. But as Mr. Messina mentioned, the curriculum support part is something that we're working on with the Office of Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development.
I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to let you guys share because I think it's important to lift it. Why is LBUSD spending so much time and money on such programs or in sharing this information?
Well, we feel that it's very, very, very important that all our students are safe and feel that they belong in our schools and that they are heard and valued. And so, as you know, mental health is super important. And if you participated in our first webinar, we provided a little bit more information about the statistics, about the reasons why it's important. And one of those is, just that the statistics are kind of staggering around the students that are LGBTQ plus, that they just have higher incidences of suicidal ideation. And that's not because anything's wrong with them, it's because communities, society doesn't fully accept them. And so we're trying to change that for them so that they feel safe and supported at school. And that's something that we feel is very important.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I feel very proud of our school district in the sense that we really do center equity in a true way. And we want to make sure all of our students are seen and valued and heard in their true self and their authentic self. And that goes with, gender, race, ethnicity, language differences. And so that's something that's really important to us in Long Beach Unified School District. The last question that I have, with the zers pronoun, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, with the Z, can it be confused with hers? And how can I avoid that?
I think it might be able to, it might be confusing. It just gives options. Typically, when a student identifies as non-binary is when they might use that pronoun. But if it's easier to use they, that's what we see most. students preferring their pronouns to be they, them. But we do get people who are, just adamant about, well, that means that it's plural. And so that just gives an alternative. So it's really the choice of the student. So whatever it is, we just say that you accept what they are asking you to call them, and you do your best.
And thank you for saying that, because I know, for some of us that this is very new, right? You do your best and then you ask. And most of the students and adults that I've come in contact with are very kind in understanding that we're not perfect in this space. And so, especially the students have really been the ones that have helped me to learn, to be honest with you. So I think those are all the questions we have right now. I believe we'll be getting some more, I'm sure, in the doc, and we'll share them with you, Dr. Sosa and Mr. Messina, as we get them in.
Fantastic.
Do you have any last words, any parting comments for our audience?
I just want to say thank you so much for inviting us in and allowing us to share this very wonderful, important, and necessary information. Please note that in the Office of Student Support Services, we are here to support your students. We are here to support you and ultimately the staff and teachers that educate. So we have to work together. Please know that you do not have to do this alone. We are here and we have you. So please reach out to us.
Thank you. Dr. Sosa?
Yes, thank you again for inviting us into your home today and for allowing us to share this information that we have, and just your commitment to making this world a better place for all students, for all children, and our kids and our youth. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you to our parents, our guardians, and our caregivers for being with us. We are learning, we are growing together. And please freely share your comments or questions or concerns or anything, because we want to present workshops that are valuable and important to you, our community. We have a self-care workshop for our parents and guardians coming up on March 1st. So I hope that you will join us. Dr. Amy Love will be here, and Dr. Prager will be here to share some very important, valuable tips on how we can relax and just take care of ourselves. So especially during these very trying times. So thank you to everyone. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a blessed evening. Take care and be safe.